After his wife died, Jonathan's 5-year-old twins stopped talking for 18 months. One day, he walks into the kitchen and finds them laughing and talking again with the housekeeper. And in 10 seconds, he destroys everything. Jonathan Reed came home without warning. No driver, no assistant, no text to say wheels down or ETA 10 p.m. Just a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and a locked jaw that looked like it had forgotten how to unclench. Lake Forest was quiet at night, the tall trees shivering under the soft hum of wind rolling off Lake Michigan. His estate, 12,000 square feet of glass, stone, and empty halls, sat back from the road like a dark monument. He pushed the front door open. Motion lights blinked awake one by one, washing the marble floor in pale, artificial gold. The foyer looked exactly the same. Wide staircase sweeping upward, oil paintings Rachel had chosen before the twins were born. The heavy vase of hydrangeas Elena replaced every week even though no one ever commented on them. Except tonight, something felt off. Stillness had weight. Jonathan paused just inside the threshold, letting his eyes adjust. The house smelled the way it always did. Sea breeze leaking in from the lake, lemon polish, a faint trace of coffee that seemed embedded in the walls from years of Rachel's mornings. He listened. Nothing. No feet pounding on the stairs. No cartoons echoing down the hall. No humming from the kitchen. No voices. The same silence he'd lived with for 18 months. His chest tightened. He let out a breath he didn't remember holding and let his keys drop into the shallow dish on the console. They hit too loudly and bounced, clattering around like they had the whole house to themselves. The sound echoed up the hallway and vanished. He adjusted the strap on his shoulder and started walking. His shoes sank into the runner, swallowing the noise of his footsteps like the house swallowed everything else. Laughter, arguments, apologies, memories. Lights flicked on in sequence as he passed the study. The formal dining room with 12 empty chairs. The living room still arranged exactly the way Rachel had left it. 18 months, he thought. 18 months of this. His tie felt like a noose. He tugged it loose with one hand as he walked, exhaustion pressing at the base of his skull. He hadn't planned to come back early. The meetings in Tokyo were supposed to run 3 more days. Investors still wanted him in the room. Lawyers had more clauses to walk through. There were numbers to argue over, egos to manage, signatures to secure. But sometime around midnight on the 32nd floor of a glass tower in Shinjuku, something inside him had cracked. He'd caught his reflection in the window, the city blazing beneath him in neon grids, his own face superimposed over it. The tired eyes, the gray threading his temple, the jaw clenched like he was perpetually bracing for impact. He'd stared at himself and realized he couldn't breathe. The words he'd been saying for the past year were proceeding on schedule. That's acceptable risk. Let's move ahead, suddenly sounded like static. He'd walked out of the meeting, told his assistant to cancel the rest of his week, and booked the earliest flight home. Now, standing in the quiet corridors of his own house, the familiar pressure settled on his chest again. He took the hallway toward the back, toward the kitchen, his steps quickening without conscious thought. And then he heard it. At first he thought it was the wind, a faint, thread-like sound weaving through the quiet. Jonathan stopped, tilted his head. There it was again. A voice. High, soft, familiar. His heart lurched. No, that's not. Another voice. Lighter, overlapping, playful. His pulse spiked. No, the twins don't talk. They haven't talked in. He knew exactly how long. 18 months. 18 months of a silence that sat in their throats like stones. 18 months of them gripping each other's hands and using only shrugs, blinks, and tiny nods to navigate their days. 18 months of specialists saying, it's a trauma response, and we have to be patient. He moved faster now, breath catching in his throat. The sound grew clearer. Not just voices. Singing. Something like laughter. It was coming from the kitchen. He reached the swinging door, his hand hovering inches from the metal plate. For a moment he just stood there, fingers trembling, mind refusing to accept what his ears already knew. Then he shoved it open. His world split down the middle. Sunlight flooded the room from the tall windows over the sink, spilling in broad golden strokes across the countertops. It made the stainless steel refrigerator gleam, turned the marble island into a bright, warm altar. Dust motes floated in the beams like tiny, lazy planets. And for the first time in 18 months, the kitchen looked alive. Naomi Brooks stood at the island, sleeves rolled, folding a pile of tiny t-shirts in careful stacks. She hummed under her breath. Some half remembered him that tugged at a corner of Jonathan's childhood he'd boarded up long ago. But she wasn't the center of the scene. It was his son's. Liam sat on the counter beside the sink, bare feet drumming against the cabinet doors. His hair stuck up in every direction, cheeks flushed pink, mouth wide in a grin Jonathan hadn't seen since the night Rachel read them a bedtime story about a silly dragon. Noah stood next to him, bracing one hand on the counter's edge, copying whatever goofy expression Liam pulled. Puffed cheeks, crossed eyes, and both boys were laughing. Not polite chuckles, not forced little smiles. Laughing. Bright, loud, breathless laughter that ricocheted off tile and glass and stainless steel like music. And they were talking. Actual words. "Do it again, Miss Naomi," Noah shouted, dimples digging deep into his cheeks. His voice cracked a little on the last syllable like it had forgotten how to be used. Liam bounced, clapping his hands. "Higher. Higher. You didn't do the high part." Jonathan's knees went weak. For 18 months he'd prayed, quietly, desperately, just to hear a syllable. One small dat, one no, one stop. Something. Anything. He'd paid an army of experts amounts of money he never told anyone about. He'd flown the boys to clinics, to retreats, to experimental programs. He'd sat with them in stark offices while strangers with kind eyes and degrees on the walls asked them questions they responded to with silence. He'd stood at the door of their bedroom some nights and whispered, "Please, please say something," knowing they couldn't hear him and hating himself for being too afraid to step inside. Nothing worked. Until this. Naomi looked up first, sensing the shift in the air. Her humming stopped. Her eyes widened just a fraction. The boys followed her gaze, and their laughter skidded to a halt. In a heartbeat, both twins went rigid. Joy drained from their faces. Noah's hand shot to Liam's wrist like muscle memory. Liam's shoulders tensed, his whole small body folding inward, ready to retreat back into that quiet place they'd been living in for so long. Jonathan stepped forward on autopilot. His mind roared with disbelief, relief so fierce it was almost pain, and underneath that, something sharp and ugly that surged before he even knew what it was. He didn't understand that feeling. He only felt it. A hot, twisting rage that wasn't truly at her, but had nowhere else to go. This woman did what I couldn't. While he'd been flying from Tokyo to London to Dubai, while he'd been shaking hands and signing contracts and hiding in airplane cabins because the sky felt safer than his own house, this woman had somehow reached his sons. She'd coaxed them back from the edge of some invisible cliff he hadn't been able to get within 10 feet of. She'd witnessed their first words, their first laughs, their first step out of that silent exile. And he hadn't even known it was happening. Shame stabbed through him. Shame turned to anger. Anger exploded. What is going on in here? The question ripped out of him like a whip, cracking across the room. Naomi flinched. Liam's gaze dropped instantly to the floor. Noah's lip started to tremble. Both boys shrank into themselves. Naomi straightened, hands resting lightly on the folded shirts. Her voice stayed gentle. "Mr. Reed, they were just. You were hired to clean." Jonathan snapped, the words bouncing off marble and metal. "Not to put my sons on counters. Not to climb all over the kitchen. Not to," his hand slashed through the air, "turn this place into a circus." "Sir, they were only." "I don't want excuses," he cut in, louder than he meant to. "What if one of them slipped? What if one fell? What if something happened?" Noah flinched at the rising volume. Liam's shoulders rose around his ears. Naomi inhaled slowly, hurt flickering behind her eyes. "I was careful. They were safe. You're fired." The words came out cold. Final. The air seemed to freeze. Naomi's lashes fluttered once. For a heartbeat, something like shock crossed her face. Then she closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they shone with tears, but her chin was lifted. "Yes, sir." She didn't argue, didn't defend herself, didn't beg. She simply turned, moved to the counter, and lifted Noah down with the same gentleness she'd used when the boys were laughing. Her hands shook just a little as she smoothed his shirt. Liam slid off the counter on his own, knuckles white around his brother's sleeve. Naomi walked past Jonathan, spine straight, eyes lowered, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She didn't look at him. The boys tracked her with their eyes, stunned. When the front door clicked faintly in the distance, they turned their gaze back to their father. Fear flickered there. Fear. Not of some stranger. Not of the world. Of him. Jonathan's breath stuttered. The twins didn't shout, didn't cry out, didn't complain. They just turned together, shoulders touching, fingers twining tight, and walked quietly out of the kitchen. The absence they left behind was worse than the silence. Jonathan stood in the middle of the room, the sunlight now too bright, revealing every surface, every flaw. The stack of small T-shirts sat half-folded on the island, the colors suddenly too cheerful for the way his chest felt. "What did I just do?" he whispered. No one answered. The house slipped back into its old, suffocating quiet. He spent that night in his study. The overhead light stayed off. Only the desk lamp glowed, a small warm circle in a room full of shadows. A glass of scotch sat untouched beside his laptop. The screen had long since gone black. Jonathan wasn't looking at the screen anyway. He was looking at the photo on the shelf above it. Rachel, holding Liam and Noah when they were barely 3 months old. One baby in each arm, their tiny faces squished against her chest, her hair a mess, her T-shirt stained with something that might have been milk or spit up or both. She was laughing, head tipped back, eyes closed, looking like exhausted happiness personified. He stared until the image blurred. "What have I become?" he whispered. He thought of the man he'd been when she'd met him. Cocky, sharp, hungry, always moving, always hunting the next deal. She'd once told him, "You know how to build towers, John. I'm more interested in whether you know how to build a life." He thought of the promise he'd made at their wedding. To love, to cherish, to show up. He thought of the hospital room with its brutal white walls and that too quiet waiting area, of signing forms with hands that didn't feel like his, of walking out without her. He thought of the boys' faces when the coffin closed. He thought of 18 months of looking everywhere, but at them. A soft knock broke the spiral. "Mr. Reed, Elena." He didn't answer, but she opened the door anyway, slipping inside and closing it behind her. She'd been with him since before Rachel. She'd ironed his shirts when he was still a nobody working 90-hour weeks. She'd brought champagne to the table the night he signed his first big deal. She'd put lamb in the oven for his engagement dinner. She'd rocked Liam and Noah when they were colicky and Rachel's eyes had gone hollow from exhaustion. Tonight, she looked at him like a woman on the edge of losing patience with a child she loved. "They were talking," she said quietly. Jonathan swallowed. "I know. I saw." "No," Elena shook her head. "Not just today." He frowned. "What?" "They've been talking for weeks," she said. 6 weeks, Mr. Reed. Little by little. A few words, then short sentences. Laughing. Whispering. Singing with Naomi while she folded laundry. His world tilted. He gripped the edge of his desk. 6 weeks. Yes. Why? His throat closed. He forced the words out. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Elena's voice sharpened, the kindness in it edged with steel. "You were never here to tell." The truth went through him like a blade. Her expression softened just a fraction. "Naomi didn't push them," she continued. "Didn't sit them down and demand that they talk. She just showed up. Sat on the floor. Read stories. Hummed. Let them come to her. And they did." Jonathan swallowed hard. "And today," Elena said quietly, "you punished them for it." He closed his eyes. "I wasn't." "You were scared," she said. "You felt replaced. You felt like they didn't need you. So you hurt the person they did need. And they saw it." His jaw clenched. "I need to fix this," he managed. "I have to fix this. I have to apologize. To her. To them." Elena crossed her arms, watching him carefully. "Apologizing is a start," she said. "But they don't need speeches. They need you to show up. Not just for a weekend. Not just when the guilt gets too heavy. Really show up." "I will," Jonathan said. "I'll talk to Naomi tomorrow. I'll ask her to come back." I hope you do," she said. "For their sake." She left him there in the glow of the lamp and the weight of his own choices. He stared at Rachel's face until his eyes burned. Eventually, he fell asleep with his head on the desk, the untouched scotch still sitting beside him. The morning came gray and thin. Jonathan's neck ached from the angle he'd slept at. His phone was full of messages, missed calls from his assistant, emails from Tokyo, a text from a board member asking if he'd landed safely. He ignored them all. He showered quickly, dressed in the first shirt and blazer he grabbed, and went downstairs. Elena was in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, eyes shadowed with the kind of tired that came from more than poor sleep. Her address, Jonathan said quietly. Please. Elena hesitated. Mr. Reed, she lives on the south side. It's far. And I don't care where it is, he said. His voice broke. I have to try. She studied him for a long second, then nodded. She pulled a small paper from her apron pocket and handed it over. Don't go there to make yourself feel better, she said. Go there to tell the truth. He nodded. On his way to the garage, he passed the playroom door. It was half open. He glanced in. Liam and Noah sat on the rug, knees pulled to their chests, shoulders pressed together. They were staring at nothing. It was the exact posture they'd lived in for months after Rachel died, like two small statues carved from grief. His stomach twisted. Hey, buddies, he said softly from the doorway. They looked up. Their faces didn't change. Hi. I'm going to talk to Miss Naomi, he said. I'll be back. Silence. Okay, he whispered. I'll be back. He walked away before his voice could crack. He drove without really seeing the route. Down Lakeshore Drive past the gleaming downtown he'd spent his career building, past the museums and parks, past the parts of the city that showed up on postcards. The buildings changed. Glass and steel gave way to brick and boarded windows and corner stores with metal grates half pulled down. Murals of faces and fists and names painted across walls watched his black SUV roll by. The address Elena had given him led to a narrow three-story building with a faded awning and a dented mail slot. He climbed the chipped concrete stairs to the third floor. The air smelled like frying onions, cigarette smoke, and something floral. He knocked. For a moment, there was nothing. Then heavy footsteps. The door cracked open just enough for the chain to strain. A teenage boy stared out at him. 16 maybe. Tall, wiry, wearing a t-shirt with a faded logo and basketball shorts. His eyes were sharp, assessing, suspicious. Yes, he said flatly. I'm looking for Naomi Brooks, Jonathan said. I know who you are, the boy cut in. Jonathan blinked. You do? You're the guy who made her cry, the boy said, voice calm but edged. She came home with her eyes all red and tried to pretend she was fine. She's not fine. Jonathan swallowed. I didn't mean to hurt her. She sat in the car for 20 minutes downstairs before she could even come up, he went on, hands shaking on the wheel. She doesn't do that. Jonathan's stomach dropped. I'm here to apologize, he said quietly. To tell her I was wrong. To ask if she'll let me. She doesn't want to see you, the boy snapped. The door shut in his face. Jonathan stood there staring at the peeling paint, the muffled TV sounds from another apartment, the hollow space where the door had been a second ago. In his world, doors opened. Assistants smoothed the way. Money made people listen. Power meant access. Here, none of that mattered. He walked back down the stairs slowly, one hand trailing along the rusted railing, feeling the roughness under his fingertips. For the first time in a very long time, Jonathan Reed had no idea what to do next. The next morning, the house woke to the sound of Lake Michigan pounding a little harder against the shore. Jonathan's phone buzzed on the nightstand. He ignored it. Are you sick? His assistant had texted. The board is asking. He typed, family emergency. Handle what you can, then erased it. He stared at the ceiling instead. The boys were already awake. He could hear small footsteps moving softly above his head, the sound he used to love more than anything. Now it felt like a reminder of everything he'd neglected. He went downstairs. Elena was at the stove, flipping pancakes. She glanced over her shoulder when he walked in. You found her, she asked. He nodded. I talked to her nephew. And she doesn't want to see me. Elena turned back to the pan. Can you blame her? No, he said quietly. She slid pancakes onto a plate, set them on the counter. Eat, she said. Then go again. He frowned. To get the door slammed in my face a second time? To prove you mean it, Elena replied, meeting his eye. You've walked away from this house so many times, Mr. Reed. You don't get to walk away from this too. He went again that afternoon. This time, he didn't go to the first address. Elena had found another one, Naomi's sister's apartment in Bronzeville, where she sometimes stayed to help with childcare. The building was smaller, the paint fresher. Kids' bikes leaned against the railing. Someone had planted marigolds and chipped ceramic pots by the entryway. Jonathan knocked. A woman in her 40s opened the door, a baby balanced on one hip. She wore an oversized t-shirt and leggings, her hair wrapped in a bright scarf. Her eyes were tired but alert. Yeah, she said. I'm looking for Naomi, Jonathan said. I was told she might be here. The woman's gaze flicked over his blazer, his watch, his shoes. Her mouth tightened. You're that man, she said. He didn't ask which one. He already knew. Yes, he said. I'm her. I was her employer. She doesn't want to talk to you. I know, he said. But I need to talk to her. Please. Her brows lifted. The baby squirmed on her hip, grabbing for her necklace. Jonathan kept going. I know I hurt her. I know I humiliated her. I know I scared my own children. I'm not here to, he gestured helplessly, justify it. I'm here because I need to say I was wrong. Completely wrong. The woman eyed him for a long moment, then sighed. Naomi, she called over her shoulder. Wall Street's at the door. A beat of silence. Then footsteps. Naomi appeared in the hallway behind her sister. She'd changed since that morning in his kitchen, but not in the ways he expected. She wore jeans and a gray sweater, hair pulled back, no makeup. But something in her posture was different. Closed off. Guarded. She stopped when she saw him. Mr. Reed, she said quietly. Her sister slipped away, giving them space. Naomi, he said, throat dry. She folded her arms across her chest. Why are you here? He swallowed. This was it. No boardroom, no negotiation. Just a hallway and the truth. I came to apologize. For yesterday. For all of it. Her eyebrows rose slightly. All of it. He forced himself not to look away. I yelled at you in front of my sons. I disrespected you. I made your kindness look like a problem. And I terrified them. I know that. His voice faltered. I saw them laughing for the first time since Rachel died, and instead of falling on my knees and thanking God, I attacked the person who made it possible. Naomi's throat worked. You hurt them, she said softly. You hurt me. And you broke something I spent weeks building with them. Trust. Safety. He nodded, shame curling in his chest. I did. Her eyes narrowed. Why? Jonathan opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. At first, I told myself I was worried about safety, he said. That you had them on the counters, that you might drop them. But that was just noise. The truth is, he exhaled, the words dragging themselves out. I walked into that kitchen and saw my boys alive in a way they haven't been in a year and a half. And I realized, a stranger had done what their own father couldn't. He let the admission hang in the air. I felt replaced, he said simply. Like I didn't belong. Like I was extra. And instead of dealing with that, I took it out on you. Naomi blinked slowly. He reached into his coat. They made this, he said, pulling out the cardboard box Elena had found. For you. Naomi frowned. What is it? He held it out. She hesitated, then took it and opened it. Inside were the drawings. Crayon suns, bright hearts, 3 stick figures standing under a crooked rainbow. The letters were shaky but legible, us. And under that, folded in half, the note. Naomi unfolded it. Please come back. We love you. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears welled, spilled, tracked down her cheeks before she could stop them. They hid it. Jonathan's voice was rough. Under their pillows. It took Elena weeks to find it. They love you. Naomi's shoulders shook once. They talk about you, he said. Even now. They miss you. They're back to being so quiet, and his voice broke. He dragged a hand over his face. I did that. I did that to them. Naomi closed the box gently, fingers lingering on the cardboard. That's not my responsibility, she whispered. I know, he said quickly. I'm not trying to dump it all on you. He swallowed. My sons need you, and I need to learn from you. Because whatever I've been doing, it's not working. It's never worked. Naomi shook her head, tears still falling. They're your children, Mr. Reed. Not projects. Not problems to outsource. Yours. I know, he said again. I am not asking you to replace me. I'm asking you to help me become the man they need instead of the ghost they've had. Silence settled. Behind Naomi, a cartoon played softly in another room. The baby babbled something, and her sister shushed him gently. A dog barked somewhere outside. Life went on in this building in a way it hadn't in Jonathan's house for a very long time. You humiliated me, Naomi said finally, voice low. In front of children who trusted me. You showed them that when you feel threatened, you punish the person who makes them feel safe. Do you realize how dangerous that is for them? Yes, he whispered. And now you want me to walk back in like nothing happened? No, he shook his head. I know it can't be like nothing happened. I know there's a cost. I'm just asking if there's any way I can start paying it. She looked down at the box again, thumb tracing the crayon heart. Give me a week, she said at last. A week, he repeated. I need time, she said. To think. To breathe. To make sure you mean what you're saying. If you really do, you can wait 7 days. If you're just reacting to guilt, you'll get busy again. Something will come up. You'll forget. He nodded slowly. The assessment was brutal and accurate. Okay, I'll wait. She handed him back the box. Keep it. Show it to them. Tell them I saw it. He curled his fingers around the cardboard. And tell them, her voice cracked. Tell them I miss them too. She stepped back. The door closed quietly. He drove home with the box in the passenger seat. At every red light, his eyes flicked to it. To the overlapping colors. To the shaky letters. To the little universe his sons had put on paper, one he hadn't been invited into. My sons trusted her before they trusted me. The thought sat heavy. Not as accusation, more like a diagnosis. He pulled into the driveway, the manicured lawn stretching out like a green lie. For all the perfection he'd bought, it hadn't been able to shelter the only 3 people who mattered. Elena met him in the hallway. She saw it, he said, lifting the box. And Elena asked. She said she needs a week. Elena nodded slowly. That's more than you deserved. I know, he said. Where are they? He asked. In the playroom, she said. They haven't wanted to go outside. He climbed the stairs. The playroom door was slightly ajar. He nudged it open. Liam and Noah sat on the floor in their same little circle, knees touching, shoulders pressed together. Their hands were clasped so tightly their knuckles were pale. Hey, guys, Jonathan said softly. They looked up, eyes wary and tired in a way 5-year-olds' eyes should never be. He sat down across from them, not too close. I went to see Miss Naomi, he said. She saw what you made. Liam's throat visibly moved. Noah's gaze dropped to the box in Jonathan's hands. She asked me to tell you she misses you too, Jonathan said. Noah made a tiny, broken sound that might have been the start of a sob. He swallowed it back down. Jonathan's chest ached. I know you're mad at me, he said quietly. You should be. I scared you. I scared her. I hurt you. And I am so sorry. They said nothing. He kept going, because stopping would have been easier and therefore the wrong thing to do. I haven't been a good dad, he said. Not since your mom died. I didn't know how to be here without her, so I ran away into work. I told myself it was for us. For you. That if I worked enough, if I made enough, it would fix things. He looked down at his hands. It didn't, he whispered. All it did was leave you alone in a house that already felt like it lost too much. Liam's shoulders shook once. Noah's fingers tightened around his brother's. Jonathan lifted his gaze again. But I'm done running. I'm going to be here now. Not just today. Not just this week. I'm staying. He turned his hand's palm up on the carpet. I know I don't deserve for you to believe me yet, he said. So I'm not going to ask you to. I'm just going to show you. Day after day. For as long as it takes. For a long moment. They sat there, the 3 of them in a little triangle of fragile possibility. Then Liam slowly loosened his grip on Noah's hand. He crawled forward, cautious like an animal approaching something that might hurt it. He put his small palm against Jonathan's. Jonathan exhaled a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Noah moved too, scooting forward, pressing his forehead against Jonathan's shoulder. Jonathan wrapped his arms around both boys and held on, tears spilling down his face. I'm here, he whispered into their hair. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. The boys cried silently, bodies shaking. For the first time since the funeral, he didn't try to be strong in front of them. He let his own grief out. Let them feel it with him. Let them see that sadness wasn't something you hid. It was something you carried together. The next 3 days shifted slowly, almost imperceptibly. He stayed home. He canceled flights. Ignored angry emails. Told his assistant, handle what you can. Tell them I'll be back when I'm back. He made breakfast. It was bad at first, burnt edges, uneven pancakes, but the boys ate some of it anyway. He packed their lunches with too many snacks. He sat beside them on the couch while cartoons played, not looking at his phone, just being there. He walked them around the yard, their small hands clutching his fingers, pointing silently at things they remembered Rachel naming. Hydrangea, maple, finch. He read bedtime stories. Sometimes Liam followed the pictures with his finger, sometimes Noah curled against his chest and stared at the wall. But they didn't pull away. The silence was different now. Not empty. Waiting. But every night when he tucked them in and kissed their foreheads, he felt it. A thin layer between them. Not as thick as before, but still there. built from 18 months of absence and one terrible moment in the kitchen. On the fourth night, he was heading back to his room when he heard it. Whispers. He froze outside their door. Liam's voice, small and shaky, floated through the crack. Do you think she's coming back? Noah, Daddy said he's trying. Liam, he said he'd stay last time. Then he left again. The words hit like punches. Noah sniffled. I miss her. Me too, Liam whispered. A pause. Daddy made her leave. Jonathan pressed his palm against the wall to steady himself. He could have walked away, pretended he hadn't heard, saved his pride. He slid down instead, back against the wall, elbows on his knees, face in his hands. He'd thought staying for a few days would be enough to fix things. It wasn't. He couldn't fix this alone. He needed help. He needed her. Not because she was magic. Not because she would do the work for him. But because she'd already walked into their silence and found a way to bring sound back. Because she knew how to sit in their pain without trying to buy her way out of it. And because he needed someone around who would look him in the eye and tell him the truth, the way Rachel always had. At sunrise, he was already in the car. He didn't rehearse. No bullet points. No planned phrases. No, what I'm trying to say is that he used in boardrooms when the stakes were high. He just drove. The sky over the lake was streaked pink and orange, the water catching light and throwing it back in broken pieces. His reflection in the windshield looked older than the man who'd stared out at Tokyo 3 nights before. When he reached Naomi's sister's building and killed the engine, his hands were shaking on the wheel. He sat there for a moment, inhaling, exhaling. Then he got out. He hadn't knocked twice before the door opened. Naomi's sister stared at him, a wary tilt to her head. She said a week, she reminded him. I know, he said, but I heard them last night. Something in his voice made her expression change, just a little. She stepped aside. Naomi. He's here again. Jonathan waited, heart pounding. Naomi appeared. No makeup. Hair in a loose bun. Oversized t-shirt and jeans. She looked like she'd slept, but not well. There were faint smudges under her eyes. She crossed her arms. Mr. Reed, she said. It's only been 4 days. I know, he said. But I couldn't wait. She raised an eyebrow. That sounds like your usual problem. He almost smiled. It died quickly. I heard them, he said. Last night. Through their door. The slightest flicker of concern crossed her face. The boys. He nodded. They were talking about you. Asking if you were coming back. Saying they missed you. Saying I made you leave. Naomi looked down. I just sat there, he said. On the floor. Outside their room. Listening to my own children try to figure out if love disappears when grown-ups make mistakes. He swallowed. I can't let them believe that, he said. I can't let them think people disappear when things get hard. I've done that enough already. Naomi's arms loosened slightly. I thought if I stayed home a few days, it would be enough, he admitted. That being physically present would undo months of being emotionally gone. But all it did was show me how deep the damage goes. And how little I know what I'm doing. He let the words sit. I need help, he said simply. I need you to help teach me how to show up. She studied him. What about your work? He took a breath. I canceled London. You said that last time. And Singapore is on hold, he said. Indefinitely. She tilted her head. Indefinitely is a big word for a man like you. As long as it takes, he said. As long as they need. Her eyes searched his face. You're really going to walk away from all of that? For years, I walked away from them for that, he said. If something has to be sacrificed now, it won't be my sons again. Silence. Naomi sighed, rubbing her forehead. Being there is not glamorous, she said. It's not like those glossy commercials with dads throwing kids in the air. It's boring, repetitive, messy. It's tantrums and late-night fevers and them saying, I hate you, when you tell them no. It's them shutting down for reasons you don't understand. It's hard. I know, he said. Well, no, I don't. Not really. But I'm willing to find out how hard and stay anyway. Her expression softened the tiniest bit. If I come back, she said, I'm coming back for them. Not for you. Not for your conscience. Good, he said. It shouldn't be for me. And I will not be your emotional crutch, she added. I won't be the only one they lean on while you still disappear into work. If I'm going to help them, you're going to be in every room they're in. Actually in it. Not just physically. He nodded. Yes. You're going to therapy, she said. He blinked. You need somewhere to put all that grief and guilt that isn't on their shoulders or mine, she said. Or Elena's. Or your assistant's. Find a grief counselor. A family therapist. Whatever. But you go. He swallowed. Okay. I'm serious, she said. You can't build a skyscraper on a cracked foundation and expect it to stand. That's what you tried to do with them. For a second, he saw Rachel in the way she tilted her chin when she told him something uncomfortable. He nodded. You're right. She went on. No more flying out for just a quick night, unless it's an emergency. No more saying, I'll be home for dinner, and then working until midnight. No more telling them you'll be at something and then not showing up. He nodded after each sentence, feeling the weight of it and not turning away. And if you start slipping back, she said, I'm gone. He met her gaze. You have my full permission to call me out, he said. To tell me when I am slipping. To take the boys and leave if I don't listen. Their hearts are more important than my ego. Naomi looked at him a long time, like she was searching for the man underneath all the money and mistakes. Eventually, she exhaled slowly. I'll come back, she said quietly. But not today. 2 more days. I need to finish some things here. Say goodbye to some of the kids at the preschool. Figure out transportation. And you. She pointed a finger at his chest. Need to go home and tell your boys yourself, she said. Not Elena. Not some sitter. You. They need to know you went after me. That you didn't shrug and accept my no. That you fought for them. He nodded, eyes burning. I will. And one more thing, she said. Anything. When I walk back into that house, she said, you're not going to stand in the doorway like a king watching servants. You're going to sit down. On their level. With them. And you're going to let them run to whoever they need to. He nodded, throat thick. I understand. She stepped back, hand on the door. See you in 2 days, Mr. Reed, she said. Don't waste them. He stepped out into the morning light feeling different. Not fixed. Not absolved. But facing the right direction for the first time since Rachel's accident. At home, he found Liam and Noah in the playroom again. But this time, they weren't staring at nothing. They were drawing. Crayons lay scattered around them. Paper was spread out like fallen leaves. Most of the drawings were of 3 figures holding hands or stick houses with big square windows. He paused in the doorway. Hey, he said softly. They looked up, eyes wide, pencils stilling. He sat down on the rug across from them. I saw Miss Naomi again, he said. They stayed very, very still. She's coming back, he said. In 2 days. Noah's eyes filled so fast, it was like they'd been waiting on a hair trigger. Liam's mouth fell open in a small, disbelieving oh. But, Jonathan added quickly, this time, she's not coming back just because I said so. She's coming back because I went after her. Because I asked. Because I told her I'm staying. With you. He reached out, touching the corner of one of their drawings. I told her I canceled my trips, he said. I told her I'm going to be here. To make breakfast and burn pancakes and read stories badly, and sit in the waiting room at the doctor and do all the things I should have been doing the whole time. He looked between them. I'm here, he said again. Even when it's hard. Even when I'm tired. Even when work is loud. I'm here. For the first time in days, something like light flickered in their faces. Not full trust, but hope with its eyes slightly open. Liam moved first, sliding across the carpet and leaning into his father's chest. Noah followed, wrapping his arms around Jonathan's side. Jonathan held both boys close, pressing his cheek against their hair, whispering silent apologies he'd spend the rest of his life turning into action. 2 days stretched like a rubber band, taut and full of tension. Jonathan filled them as best he could. He called a therapist whose card Rachel's sister had given him after the funeral, one he'd shoved in a drawer and forgotten. He made an appointment. When the receptionist asked, "Is next Thursday okay?" he said, "Sooner. Please." He emailed his board. "I'm dealing with a family crisis," he wrote. "I will not be traveling for the next month. Any meetings can be done remote or delegated." He braced for pushback. Some came. He ignored it. He walked the twins through their routine himself, brushed their teeth at night, even when they could have done it alone, sat in tiny chairs at the little table in the breakfast nook while they poked at eggs, watched their favorite show without checking his phone. He listened. They didn't say much, but they started saying more. "Juice," Noah whispered once instead of just pointing. "Stay," Liam asked quietly at bedtime, fingers clutching his sleeve. Each word felt like a small miracle. The morning Naomi was due back, the boys woke early. Jonathan stumbled bleary-eyed into the hallway to find them already dressed in mismatched clothes, hair sticking up, standing by the front window. They stayed there for hours. At first he tried to distract them, to pull them into a game or a story, but they wouldn't move. So he stayed with them instead, sitting on the bench under the window while they stood, their hands flat on the glass. Will she really come? Liam asked just before 11, voice almost inaudible. Yes, Jonathan said. She will. How do you know? Noah asked. Because I know her, Jonathan said. She keeps her promises. Around noon, a car turned into the driveway. A small, dark sedan. Naomi stepped out. She wore dark jeans, a simple blouse, her hair pulled back into a twist. She had a tote bag over one shoulder and a look on her face like she was steeling herself for impact. Elena opened the door before Jonathan could even move. They're inside, she whispered, hugging Naomi quickly. They haven't left that window all morning. Naomi nodded, eyes already shining. Jonathan forced himself not to hover, not to stand in the center like he always did. He moved to the living room and sat on the edge of the couch instead, the twins on either side of him, their bodies vibrating with nervous energy. He was reading from a picture book about a turtle who wanted to race, but none of them were really paying attention. He didn't have to tell them she'd arrived. They heard her footsteps in the hallway. She stepped into the doorway. Hey, sweet boys, she said. Time suspended. Liam's head snapped up. Noah's whole body jolted. Miss Naomi. They launched off the couch at the same time, feet pounding on the hardwood. Jonathan barely had time to stand before they shot past him. Naomi knelt just in time to catch them both as they collided with her, arms wrapping around her neck, small hands fisting her shirt, faces burrowing into her shoulders. Noah sobbed openly. Liam shook with something that was half relief, half leftover fear. I'm here, Naomi whispered, clutching them as tightly as she dared. I'm here, babies. I missed you so much. Every single day. They cried into her neck, words tumbling out brokenly between gasps. We thought. You weren't. Daddy said, but we. I know, she murmured. I know. I'm here. Jonathan stayed where he was. For the first time, he didn't feel shoved out of the center by someone else's presence. He felt relieved that center finally had someone in it. After a long moment, Naomi looked up at him over the boys' heads. Mr. Reed, she said softly. He approached slowly. She shifted, keeping one arm around each boy, and said, Your daddy worked very hard to bring me back. He didn't give up. Both boys turned to look at him, cheeks wet, lashes clumped with tears. You did, Liam whispered. You didn't stop? Noah added. Jonathan nodded, kneeling so he was at their level. I did, he said. I'm going to keep trying. Not just with Miss Naomi. With you. Every day. Liam leaned into him. Noah wrapped an arm around his neck. Jonathan pulled them in, arms full of both his sons and the woman who'd helped pull them out of the silence he'd accidentally sealed them in. We'll do this together, Naomi said quietly. All of us. 6 months later, the Reed house was almost unrecognizable. The echo had been replaced with noise. Laughter tumbled down the stairs. Stomping feet raced across the hallway. Doors slammed and opened and slammed again. The TV blared cartoons, and then was turned off when Naomi said, Outside. Now. And the boys whined and then went anyway. Pancakes flipped on weekend mornings. Some landed on the floor. Nobody cried about it. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and burned edges and coffee and peanut butter. Jonathan worked from home 3 days a week. His assistant complained. The board grumbled. But profits didn't tank. Deals still got done. The city didn't fall apart because he wasn't in every room. On the days he did go downtown, he left after breakfast and was home by dinner. He scheduled meetings around school pickups. He told a client once, I have to go. My son has a school play. And when the client laughed like it was a joke, Jonathan didn't. He knew the boys' teachers' names now. Their favorite class. The kid in their room who talked too loud. The one who bit someone once. The one who shared his crayons. He showed up at parent-teacher conferences not as the rich man who could write a check, but as a father taking notes, asking, How can I support them at home? He started therapy. The first session, he sat stiffly on the couch and said, My wife died. My kids stopped talking. I ran away. Then I fired the woman who helped them. The therapist nodded and asked things like, What did you feel when? And where do you feel that in your body? He rolled his eyes internally. By the 4th session, he was sobbing into a box of tissues, finally saying sentences he'd never allowed himself to say out loud. I'm scared I'm going to ruin them the way my father ruined me. I don't know how to be gentle without feeling weak. I used work as an excuse to not feel anything at all. Naomi watched the changes quietly. She saw it in the way he put his phone in a drawer during dinner, in the way he apologized when he raised his voice too fast, in the way he caught himself mid-snap and took a breath before trying again. She saw it in the way the boys relaxed around him, their shoulders not hiked toward their ears, their laughter not dying the second he entered a room. They still ran to her when they scraped knees, when nightmares woke them, when they needed someone to hold them without asking questions. But more and more, they also ran to him. One warm evening in late summer, the sky bruised violet over the lake. Jonathan found Naomi and the boys on their knees in the garden. They were elbow-deep in dirt, planting something along the fence. He walked over, wiping his hands on his jeans. "What are we planting?" "Sunflowers," Noah said proudly, holding up a packet of seeds. "Auntie Naomi said Mom loved them." Jonathan's throat tightened. "She did," he said. "She grew them in the tiny yard at our first apartment. They were taller than me by August." Naomi smiled gently. "I told them sunflowers always turn toward the light," she said. "No matter where you put them or how stormy it gets, they keep facing the sun. Even when it's dark?" Liam asked. "Especially then," she said. "Like us," Liam added softly after a moment. Jonathan blinked hard. "Yeah," he said. "Like us." They pressed seeds into the earth with small, dirty fingers, covered them, patted the soil like tucking something into bed. As they worked, a small yellow butterfly drifted down out of nowhere and landed delicately on the empty seed packet. The garden stilled. Liam stared. "Daddy," Noah whispered, "is that Mom?" Jonathan slid an arm around each boy. The lump in his throat was painful and sweet at the same time. "Maybe it is," he said. "Your mom loved showing up in small ways." Naomi's hand found his shoulder, resting there lightly like a promise. "She'd be proud of you," she said under her breath. "All three of you." The butterfly stayed for another heartbeat, wings opening and closing. Then it lifted, circled once above their heads, and flew toward the fading sun. Liam leaned against his father's side. "Do you think she knows we're okay now?" he asked. Jonathan looked at the boys, at Naomi, at the house that no longer felt like a museum of what he'd lost, but a home for what they were building. "I think she knows," he said quietly. "I think she's been watching the whole time." Noah looked up, eyes wide and serious. "You're staying, right? Forever?" Jonathan bent down and kissed the top of his head. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "Ever. I can't promise I won't mess up, but I can promise I won't run." Naomi brushed a tear away quickly. The boys didn't see. Jonathan did. He looked at the patch of dirt that would soon be a forest of yellow and brown and gold, all of it turning toward the light. Rachel had taped a verse to their refrigerator in the old apartment once, back before the money, before the towers, before the boardrooms. A crumpled sticky note with smudged ink. He'd rolled his eyes at it then. Now, the words rose up like something planted long ago finally breaking through the soil. "Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things," he murmured. She loved that one. Liam squeezed his hand. Noah rested his head against his side. Naomi smiled, eyes shining. And Jonathan knew. This, dirty hands and sunflowers and kids leaning on him, and a woman who told him the truth even when it hurt. This was wealth. Not the towers. Not the deals. Not the accounts. This was the kind of love that stayed. Even through the silence. Even through the dark. Even through every mistake. The kind of love you didn't earn with perfection. The kind you showed up for every day.
If you enjoyed this story and want more inspiring lessons like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss one.